And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. They're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. You are Gator fans, and most of you the past week on social media have not exactly been thrilled with Gator recruiting, although the waters calmed a little bit on Monday night with Sharif Denson, the corner from Bartram Trail here in Jacksonville, committing to Florida. But, Denny, let's begin right there. Florida lost out on quarterback Jaden Rashada last week to Miami. They also lost out on Orange Park offensive tackle Roderick Kearney, who went to Florida State, and Gator fans were not happy with that on social media. What was your reaction to that whole situation?
To them losing out on them?
And the reaction from Gator Nation, at least the recruiting fans on Twitter.
I'll stay consistent on this. I don't really get into recruit. Well, I don't get into recruiting, but talk to me in December when people can actually sign something and do something. That's when I'm interested in it. Right now, like we're going off of the word of 17 and 18-year-olds, which when I was 17 and 18, my word probably wasn't worth a whole lot.
I remember when I covered recruiting for Gridiron, I had kids tell me on the phone, I am 110% committed. 2 months later, I saw a tweet where they decommitted and went somewhere else.
I mean, Rashada's not coming. Let's just get that straight.
Yeah.
There's a lot to that story that I'm not going to get into today. But Rashada is not going to go to the University of Florida, even if he decommits from Miami. That's not happening. But I'm not worried about this at all. Like, as far as a look into the future of Florida football, what's happened in the first couple of months of Napier being there doesn't worry me at all. In fact, I'll go the other way with it. Like, he's brought in a ton of momentum. He's changed a culture from a recruiting perspective before ever playing a game. People, listen to that. They haven't played a game, right? Like, that's where – and I think 95% of Florida fans couldn't care less about recruiting. It's the vocal 5%.
I think you're probably right about like 75, 80%. There's a lot of recruiting fans that follow that stuff.
I think that's
how I got paid for 4 years.
The recruiting fans are avid fans or hardcore fans, but I think they're a very, very small minority of overall fans. At the end of the day, everybody's going to be thrilled if Florida starts out 4-0.
Sure.
And they're going to forget about this time, and that's going to boost recruiting. And so I'm not giving an excuse, but I do know a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff at Florida, and I can say that a lot of this will go away shortly.
Well, here's the thing, and I gave you credit for this, not only on my radio show, but on social media. And I know that was vital to your existence that I gave you credit for it.
I'm almost gone.
Social media.
Thank you.
You said last week on this program, 48 hours before Rashada committed, that he was not going to Florida. You knew, and Frank, you knew probably a couple of weeks before that even. Gator fans, though, that aren't in the inner workings of the recruiting and don't know the behind-the-scenes stuff that guys like you do, working for 6 points. Yeah, should listen to Gator Bytes, exactly. But you were not surprised at all with Rashada going to Miami.
No. That was done.
Right.
That was.
But I think the hysteria
10, 12 days ago, there was like zero question about that.
But I think the hysteria from Gator fans, well, they did not know that. So when they see Rashada chooses Miami over Florida and CBS Sports and all these national websites 24/7 are saying choosing the Hurricanes over the Gators, people that aren't in the know lost their mind over that. And that's just the bad part of recruiting.
I get it. There's passion involved with this, especially at the quarterback position, because you only sign one usually per class, and in some classes you don't sign any, right? But I think it's another example too of we let people tell us that there's only 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks every year, right? That you have to get one of these. But in reality, when you go, 5 years later and you look at the NFL, they're littered with guys who weren't talked about like that in the recruiting process. And so you got to have a really good ability to project what these guys are going to turn into. So, I had a coach tell me this one time. We were talking about one of our bigger recruited quarterbacks, and I asked him, so does his size not worry you a little bit? He's a little slight. He goes, I would imagine that that's the exact same way that Andrew Luck and John Elway and all these guys looked when they were 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of hit me, and I'm like, you know what? He's right, because I spend my life around these massive human beings that are playing on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm not putting in perspective that this kid is 6 years, in some cases 8 years younger than what some of these other guys are. And so I think the ability to look at a kid and project of what he's going to do in your offense, in your weight room, in your system, in your culture, and is he going to surpass maybe some people that are thought of higher in the recruiting world? If you can do that consistently, you can win a lot of football games. Georgia just won a natty with the least decorated quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's one of the things you really got to hold on to when you look at recruiting.
Just your weekly reminder, by the way, we know we have different viewers every week. Denny Thompson is the what's the title? The founder, the founder of 6 Points.
Yeah.
He started 6 Points quarterback training. It started out locally here in Jacksonville. It is now basically expanded to regional, if not national. Denny trains high school quarterbacks, trains college quarterbacks. One of them is named Anthony Richardson. We'll get to in a moment. You train NFL quarterbacks as well. So Denny certainly knows the inner workings of a lot going on in the recruiting game. One thing that I think calmed the waters a little bit with Gator Fan, we do our show in Jacksonville, is 4-star Sharif Denson out of Bartram Trail, right there in St. Johns County, committed to Florida on Monday night. And when he committed to Florida on Monday night, you then maybe forgot a little bit about the guys you lost over the weekend. I had Sharif on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL. What an impressive young man. That guy, 30 minutes after he committed, was already recruiting other high-profile guys to come to Florida. It appears, Denny, the Gators got a good one with Sharif Denson.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but from what I've heard, I talked to Coach Sutherland at Bartram Trail, just thinks that the sky is literally the limit for this kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to have Sutherland on tonight, by the way, on Hacker After Dark.
Y'all want to listen to that, because Coach Sutherland is like maybe the best man I've ever known in my life, like an incredible individual. But yeah, Sharif, and you look at what Bartram's done at the DB position. Trevez Johnson's had a good start to his career at Florida. So I think that's a big get. But here's the thing is you got to start stacking a couple of those, not to enhance your class now, but for what you're talking about, is these guys know everybody. Elite 11 are just wrapped up. Like, all these guys are around each other all the time at these camps, like Elite 11 or Rivals or whatever it is, these 707s. And so once you get somebody locked in and they're talking to their buddies, I would venture to say that that's a better relationship in most cases than what they have with your coach, right? There's a more trusting relationship with a kid who you've known and is like you and your peer for the past 2 or 3 years than there is with a coach who you just met 3 or 4 months ago.
Well, and to that point, Arch Manning commits to Texas, and now Texas is on fire in recruiting. Rashada to Miami. Miami's had a very good week since Rashada committed. What I've heard from Gator Fan is, when is the last high-profile quarterback we've had commit to us, regardless of the coaching staff? And I got to thinking, was Del Rio a high-profile guy?
No.
And he's gone anyway. Jalen Kitna wasn't. Anthony was, but that's 3 years ago now in the recruiting game. So you're talking 3 years since a quote-unquote high-profile quarterback. And now here we sit, July 1, we're recording this podcast. Currently, the Gators do not have a quarterback in the fold for the class of 2023, and that's where I think some trepidation lies with Gator fans, is that, all right, if Anthony were to go pro after this year, you got Jack Miller, you got Jalen Kitna, but that's about it.
All right, so let's go down that road. I like this. One, they're going to get a high-profile quarterback. That's going to happen. But
I would take that to the bank, by the way, if Denny says that.
Two, let's assume Anthony goes pro. Who you sign this year is not who you're rolling out next year.
Agreed, but you need to start building up that quarterback
There
room.
will be a portal signee as well. So there will be, and they haven't told me this. This is just me talking. I mean, it's common sense. So I lose Ant to the first round. They like Jack Miller. They really like Jack, and I think Jack's a good player. But there will be a major portal quarterback at some point in this offseason. And now you have maybe the best situation.
In after the 22 season.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Maybe the best situation in that, hey, look, we just had a quarterback go first round.
Yeah.
We got these weapons around him. We got this young kid we really like, but he's not going to play for a year or two. Come on in here and get to the NFL, win us some football games, and move on. And you start looking at the guys that made those moves last year, Caleb Williams being one of them, Spencer Rattler. Like, we can go on and on and on and on and on. Your quarterback for the 2023 season probably isn't on your roster right now and isn't someone you're going to sign, unless Jack Miller takes a big step forward.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a whole lot of correlation. There's not the urgency that there's been in the past to say, oh, my gosh, man, our program's dead if we don't sign a quarterback because of the transfer portal. But there is the urgency in development. Does that make sense? Like, there is the urgency in the sense of we got to get this guy in here because we need 2 good years out of him.
Right.
And that's really where we're at in college football is if you can get 2 good years out of your star quarterback before he goes to the pros, you're ahead of the game. And if you got the next guy ready to go 2 good years after that, that's now you're getting into what Alabama does. Now you're getting into what Georgia's been attempting to do, right? Now you're getting Ohio State, what they do. That's the formula right there.
Quarterbacks on the roster, scholarship quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, Jack Miller, Jalen Kitna, and then let's not forget they brought in a guy who's a true freshman this year, Max Brown. That was a Central Michigan commit that started picking up some steam at the very end. Do you like Max Brown? Have you seen much of him?
I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
No, I'll see him next week, I think. But I haven't seen him.
Because Del Rio transferred, and obviously we know Emory Jones transferred. Anything on Jalen Kitna? And the reason I ask this, and we'll get more into Anthony Richardson here in a moment because of the Manning camp, but we're one, knock on wood, we're one sprained ankle away from will it be Jack Miller, will it be Jalen Kitna, who would it be if Anthony Richardson were to go down?
I mean, I don't – neither one of those are going to – they're not Kyle Trask. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
So Florida's in a lot of trouble,
right,
if Anthony Richardson goes down.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, they don't have that there.
Who would it be, though, out of curiosity? Would it be Jack Miller?
I think it would be.
Yeah.
I think if you just read into the way the spring went, I think it would be Jack Miller.
Well, Anthony Richardson, let's hold that thought because Anthony Richardson made a heck of a name for himself at the Manning camp. We'll get into that in a moment. Today's Gator Bytes podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. Their website, se-ortho.com. And you can listen for Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the good doctor, Kevin Murphy, on Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan right here on 1010XL for his weekly analysis of injuries in sports. Anthony, back from the Manning camp. The video that went viral showed him throwing the ball, was at 75 yards in the air. It was the most beautiful incomplete pass you'll ever see in your life. Have you talked to Anthony? How did he perform at the Manning camp?
Hey, yeah, I've talked to him a couple times. In fact, a little shameless plug. I would go to 6 Points Jack social media, or you can go to my Twitter, Denny_Thompson. We did a mic'd up with Anthony.
I saw that, yeah.
It's fantastic.
It was very good.
It shows his personality better than any piece I've ever seen with Anthony.
Agreed.
He's in a great headspace. I've talked to him a couple times since then. I talked to a bunch of people who were at the camp, who were working the camp or just associated with the camp. Every single one of them said the same thing of, holy cow, I didn't know how good of a thrower this kid is. And it's not the 75-yarder. Like, that's fun to watch. But it's the consistency throughout the couple of days and throwing right alongside the best quarterbacks in the country. And almost everybody's saying he was either number 1 or number 2 at this camp, right? It's just that he has a talent to throw the ball, and it made me smile because this isn't a camp where he can go run at, right? So it was going to be, if we're going to make a name, it's going to be throwing the football.
Mm-hmm.
And he's worked so hard this offseason at it. He's worked probably harder than anybody else that we have outside of our pro guys at just patterning and learning, okay, this is how I generate extra power. This is the angle I want to attack this throw at. This is the arm angle I want this throw at. And just this is where I want to put my front hip in relation to hip-shoulder separation, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot that goes in it, right? And he's put so much time and effort into that, and he's been healthy that it showed at Manning. And so now our plan is, all right, let's chill for a week here because we don't want to peak too soon.
Mm-hmm.
But then let's hit it hard the last couple of weeks before we get into camp, and then let's have a year to remember.
The Anthony Richardson thing is so interesting. From Gainesville Eastside High School, you told me about him 5 years ago, I think in his junior year at Gainesville Eastside, yet he wasn't highly recruited. And then ultimately, did he commit to Florida first, then to Penn State, then back to Florida?
He didn't commit to Penn State. He was committed to Florida the most awkward day of my professional life.
Oh, was that the Carson Beck day too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carson Beck and Anthony Richardson were both on a visit at Florida, and I was there too. And had great intentions from the University of Florida. Like they had a good plan. And Carson and Anthony are really good friends. They trained together with me for years, right? But it was so awkward that shortly after that day, he decommitted, looked around, opened up his recruitment, got a ton of interest, and then ultimately decided, you know what, Florida's where I want to be.
Did colleges just miss on him? Because Anthony Richardson was a late bloomer.
No, he shut down early. He told everybody, I'm Florida.
Yeah.
I'm Florida. And he was a little bit of a late bloomer, but I think if he would have opened his recruiting up, he would have had just about everybody he wanted. By the time he opened it up, a lot of people had already had their commitment.
You work as closely with Anthony Richardson, dare I say, as anybody, even maybe some guys on the Florida staff. I mean, you're with Anthony Richardson, 8-10 days a month?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Craziness. I mean, you work with him a ton. What impresses you the most about his game? Again, he's only started one game at Florida, but Gator fans have seen a little of him. They obviously are very intrigued, can't wait for the year. But what is the best part of Anthony Richardson's game?
My answer is different than what it was this time last year. Everybody knows the physical traits, and I've told you countless times how smart the kid is. The one piece that I felt like was missing with Anthony, he's very introverted, right? He's a hilarious guy. He's a great guy, but he has to warm up to you. He's got to know you.
And you've said many times on this podcast, when the boys want to go grab a burger and maybe go out for the nightlife in Gainesville on Thursday night, Anthony Richardson's going back to his dorm to study the playbook.
Right. He's gonna go hang out with mom. He's just, that's not his thing, right? That's changed a little bit in the sense that I think he's gotten some confidence and self-awareness of who he is. And so now he's a much more engaging guy. Now, I'm not an engaging guy. So let's just get this out here. Like, I don't particularly like people. I'm not real social.
That's funny about guys on the radio, right? We talk to people every day, but we don't talk to them. We're talking basically at them.
Right.
There's a lot of people, more people than you'd be amazed by, quite frankly, that are on radio that are not the most personable guys.
No, we just go home and sit in a cave.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. No, it's but I think that's the part that I'm most impressed with him this year is he's really engaging, and now he's kind of brought this new energy, almost like an Anthony 2.0 of, okay, there's a lot ahead of me. And so you think about it this way. You have really two options when you have the situation Anthony's in where you are 9 months away from possibly changing your family's generational financial situation.
Yeah.
You can either get super, super, super serious and dialed in, or you can have fun with the year and be present with the year leading up to that, right? So that draft is something, I think any of us, if I said to you, hey, Hack, there's a possibility that in April you're going to get $40 million.
That would be very nice.
But what would happen between now and April? You'd be sitting on pins and needles.
Yeah.
Right? And you would just be thinking about April. That's it. That was my fear with Anthony, and we talked about it. And he's not doing that. Like, it's I want to get better today. I want to get better tomorrow. I can't wait for this season. Let's make this run. And then April's going to come when April comes. I can't change when April's coming, right? So I think that's the part that I've been most impressed with is he's really dialed into what's happening right now as evidence of Manning Passing Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't have to go to that. In fact, if I'm being honest, like, he had that and Elite 11. He had offers for both of them. And my opinion was, let's just stay here and work. Let's not, because that by the time you take those trips and all that, his agent and he decided, no, I'm going to go to Manning. And it was risk. It was a risky thing, and he went out there and just absolutely shredded it.
The fact that he's a starting quarterback at Florida, he's on every mock draft top 15 for 2023. Guys love him, whether it's Todd McShay, Mel Kiper Jr. It sounds like what you're saying is he's not going to get the big head, right? He's not. That stuff is not going to bother him or be a
distraction.
Right?
There's a little bit that nobody wants to admit about this, but there's a little bit of big head that you need to play that position at that level. There's a little bit of I'm better than everybody that you have to have. That treatment kind of puts into you a little bit. A little of that's healthy. A lot of that's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got just the right amount. He moves a little different. He's got a different confidence about him. He's huge right now, like in a good way. Like, he looks fantastic.
You saw him at the Manning camp on that video, just standing next to everybody else. It just looked different.
He and Will Levis they're different than everybody else there, right? He was in the facility right before he went, and we were talking about it, and it's just like, good grief, dude. Like, I mean, it's like every time he walks in, he gets a little more carved up.
You have to be careful about that, though. Is there such a thing as being too big, muscular to play quarterback?
Yeah, but Florida's on it. I mean, Florida has done a great job with him with his PT work and with the way that they're working nutrition. And
so I remember that was a thought about Tebow back in the day.
No doubt.
Is he starting to be too in shape, too muscular to play quarterback?
And Ant's long. Ant's long, so that's not an issue. Like, one of the things that popped out to me on that mic'd up video I referenced earlier, the size of this kid's hands.
Mm-hmm.
That ball looks like a peewee ball in his hand, right? He's just a massive human being. So he's not massive in the sense of like a bunch of artificial muscles, right? Like, that's not it. He's just big.
You know him so well. And again, I want to go quick here because I want to get into the whole Pac-12 thing, get your thoughts on that. Again, college football is unbelievable in today's day and age. I had Ben Troop on, the former Gator All-American tight end. He brought this up. I've had a couple other people bring this up to me as well. Anthony Richardson's from Gainesville. Tim Tebow was from Jacksonville. Similar guys, both very big. Anthony Richardson chose to wear number 15.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a reason for that, right?
Right.
Does he want to emulate Tim Tebow? I mean, is that a guy that he looks up to?
He definitely looks up to him. They've got a great relationship.
Yeah.
His game's so much different. Like, I mean, I know the easy thing is say, well, they're both big runners, but Anthony's going to go, 4-4. Anthony's a sprinter.
Right.
Right. So I think that's a little bit different. I think Anthony, while Tebow is a very good thrower at the college level, the weapons he had around him were elite.
Yeah, but I guess my point is we talk about the expectations for Anthony and handling those. He chose to wear 15 at the quarterback position, and I just think, and that's kind of the point Ben Troop was making. It looks like Anthony kind of welcomes that sort of expectation.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from it.
Right.
Yeah, and their relationship is. In fact, last time he was in, he asked me, he's like, "How far does Tim live from here?" I'm like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, next time I'm in, I got to hit him up. Like, I mean, he's a huge Tim Tebow fan.
Interesting. Very interesting. Today's Gator podcast on Gator Bytes is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. They're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. As we wrap it up, yesterday, the college football world had another seismic shift. It was about a year ago we found out Texas and Oklahoma were on their way to the SEC Media Days last year. So now, about 50 some odd weeks later, we find out yesterday Southern Cal and UCLA are on their way to the Big Ten. You've been in the media for many years. I've been in the media for many years. How does a story like that not get out? At 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, the news broke. That thing was done at 6 o'clock.
I thought about that when I saw it.
It was unreal with the 24-hour news cycle. How did that get bottled up?
I know. That was crazy, especially when you think about all the false starts with this. What was it, 5 years ago? I don't know, I'm guessing 5 years ago, all of our shows were dominated by mega conferences.
Yeah.
And what was getting ready to happen. And then it really didn't.
No.
It was like a false start. And then it's always those first two dominoes. And so I feel like once Oklahoma and Texas said, you know what, we'll do it, then everybody kind of looked around with, okay, and it's starting now.
Well, obviously Lincoln Riley knew.
Right.
I mean, Lincoln Riley, why do you think he went to Southern Cal? Well, now we know.
Well, and think about this. I think, I kept seeing last night on Twitter, and it's asinine to ask Rutgers to go all the way to USC and USC to go to the East Coast and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're not done. They're not done. Like, there's going to be a West Coast part of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
USC is not going to be taking 4 plane trips across the country every year.
They're not going to be in Minnesota one week and Indiana the next.
No. I think it's just a matter of time before Oregon hops on, and I think I saw reports of UW, and there's going to be a West Coast Big Ten, and I think if you're Miami and you're Florida State and you're Clemson this morning, you're waking up excited as fans.
North Carolina would be another one.
Yeah, you're waking up and you're like, okay, this is getting ready to be fun. We're getting ready to be in the SEC or Big Ten or something like that, and we're getting ready to play big games to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago every single week.
I mean, I think I know your answer to this because of the line of work you do, but I was thinking last night, the last 6 months, NIL, transfer portal, all this other stuff, now Southern Cal and UCLA doing their thing, get me to August 27th, where I have a 3rd down and 8 at the 43-yard line. I just want to see some football, man.
And we're going to be behind the chains, 3rd and 8?
Well, yeah, whatever. 2nd and 3 at the 12. I want to see tackles.
3rd and 8's tough, Hack.
Yeah.
That's
Tackles,
tough,
touchdowns. But you get my point, man. It's like it's almost exhausting talking about all this off-the-field stuff with NIL and collectives and transfer portal and conference realignment. I just need some football at this point.
I think it's so interesting, and I never thought about this, Todd. Just heard you say that out loud. College football has become the NFL.
Yeah, there's no – Lane Kiffin said as much a couple weeks ago. You have free agency, the transfer portal. You got contracts, NIL.
I don't mean in that sense. I mean it is a 12-month news cycle.
Yeah.
The NFL has it spaced out, and now college football is nudged up right there with them between signing days, between transfer portal, free agency, right? Between recruiting and camps and commitments and all that kind of stuff and NIL deals. And it is a 12. I love it. Now, I'll say this. It's made my job 10 times harder. There's a lot more BS to navigate through now than what there used to be.
BS meaning bologna sausage. Kids.
Right. However you want to say it. Yes. We're all grown people here. But, I'm with you. I'm ready to see some football. I'm also cautiously optimistic. Like, I'm ready to see it until I'm not type thing. Like, I can't get last year's Florida out of my head.
Right. Yeah. Well,
if I'm excited, I'm excited.
The Pac-12 champions are coming Labor Day weekend.
Right. I'll be there, and I can't wait, and I hope Ant goes off, and I hope, as a community, we're all like, okay, this is going to be a good year. But I also am not putting everything into that first game. It's a long season.
Final thought. What do you think's next? There's been rumblings, like you said, Oregon and Washington. From the SEC point of view, do you call Florida State? There was an argument being made down in Central Florida, and you know what? I mean, I know they just joined the Big 12. What would be a better fit for the SEC right now, Florida State or UCF?
Florida State.
Are you sure about that?
I'm absolutely
because here's the argument they were making. I would tend to agree with you. What's it about, right? TV market size. Orlando compared to Tallahassee. This is not Florida State of 7 years ago. This is Florida State that hasn't gone to a bowl game in 3 out of 4 years.
Stop, Hack.
I'm just saying.
Stop it.
Well, UCF just beat Florida, and they have the Orlando market.
Just stop it. Florida has more of the Orlando market than UCF has.
Yeah. There's a big UCF presence in Orlando.
Florida has more fans in Orlando than UCF has.
I'm saying, my point is, if one
They've already got the Orlando market, is my point.
If one of these super conferences wants Florida State better act sooner rather than later. That's all I'm saying. You put another 5-7 on the board or a 4-8 with 40,000 people in Doak Campbell Stadium, people are going to start taking notice of that.
I'm not disagreeing for the sake of disagreement, but I disagree. Florida State can take their time. Florida State is a brand that there's very few of in college football.
They certainly were. I don't know if they are now.
They still are. That logo holds a ton of weight. Now they got to get their stuff together. Tennessee's logo still holds a ton of weight. Look where they're at. Nebraska's logo still holds a ton of weight. Look where they've been. Florida State's got to get there. You got to start winning. But I think they can take their time. Notre Dame's still kind of like what are they? What are we doing here?
Notre Dame's the next big one to fall, I think. But in the ACC, I mean, Duke has value.
I think Clemson's the next big one.
Do you?
I do. I think Clemson controls so much right now. I think if you're Clemson, you're sitting in meetings this morning and you're going, okay, what do we want? Because whatever we want, we're going to get.
Yeah.
They're the biggest piece that's not already part of all this, right? I mean, Notre Dame, yes, because they're a national brand. But is Clemson not the one, because Ohio State's in the Big Ten, right? USC's got all the buzz right now. They're in the Big Ten. All the SEC schools, Penn State, Michigan, all that kind of stuff. Is there a bigger brand than Clemson right now that's not associated with the Big Ten or the SEC?
No. Football-wise, no.
Right.
I mean, I would argue with the all-athletics, North Carolina is probably pretty high.
Sure. But none of us are talking about the effect this has on basketball. None of us are talking about the effect this has on baseball.
Agreed.
So, I think Clemson, Notre Dame, those two right there hold all the cards right now. They can move swiftly or they can take their sweet time. It doesn't matter. But nobody's doing anything until they figure out what those guys are doing.
It's all about punch and counterpunch. The SEC, Texas, Oklahoma. The Big Ten is countered with USC and UCLA. You got to wonder where the next counterpunch will come.
One real quick thing, because this is a big thought to have. For the longest, we have looked regionally at conferences. We said, well, this would make sense for the SEC because they're in the South.
Yeah, geographic.
Right. Well, that was just thrown out. That precedent was thrown away.
Agreed.
The Big Ten just took 2 LA schools.
And wasn't that really thrown away when West Virginia joined the Big 12? That was kind of the start of it, right?
I mean, yeah, but we were talking about West Virginia.
Yeah.
And no disrespect, but they're not USC, they're not Alabama, they're not Ohio State, they're not Notre Dame, they're not Clemson, right?
Right.
So for whoever, that gives Clemson more range, right? Of, okay, well, if y'all want us here, then this is what we need. We need y'all to also bring this person and this person. And I'm sure that happened with USC. I'm sure USC went, yes, we will come, but we need assurances that we're not going to be on the road 3,000 miles away. We want Oregon. We want Washington. We want whoever, right? And the teams that this hurt are the teams like Utah and UCF and even Cincinnati, because these are programs that were like, oh, we're getting in with the big boys. No, you kind of just made a horizontal move now.
Yeah.
Right, when you look at it.
You got to wonder at some point, will the Power 5 conferences be dissolved, and will it be the Big Ten, the SEC, and then everybody else? He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. It is the 1st of July. Holy cow. We have college football next month. We'll be back maybe next week. Probably certainly in 2 weeks. I know you're out of town. I'm out of town. We'll try to make something work next week. SEC Media Days on the horizon as well. Thank you for watching and listening to Gator Bytes on 1010XL.com and on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.